What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Blind Spot with Dave Uziel. That's me, and I have a special guest today. We call her Mom, but everybody laughs and they wonder why we call her Mom. She is the head of whatever. She's the head of our next gen group in the limo industry, and so we call her Mom because she has to keep all of us in line at the meeting. So I want to introduce Robyn Goldenberg, who you may or may not know. But what's up, girl?
Hello, hello. How are you?
Good. How are you? What's new?
Living life.
Living life. The COVID-19 work from home life.
That's right. I'm on my porch.
Yeah. How's the doggy doing?
She's okay. She just came back from a walk, so she's dying because it's like 90 degrees here.
Wow. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is it normal?
Yeah. Welcome to the summer in the Northeast.
Yeah. That's funny. Well, thanks for joining us on here. I know that's is our second recording, but we decided to kind of start all over because of a lot of things. Initially, I was just going to start talking about ourselves, but then jump into the fun stuff that we relate to. But I think maybe actually it's a better idea. You just go into it, talk about who you are, what you do, and then we'll talk about the PPP loan and the EIDL loan for small businesses.
Sure. So I run a company called Strategy Leaders. I guess first my name is Robyn. You can all see that, but I live in Connecticut, so I run a company called Strategy Leaders with my mom, and we work with privately held businesses, so small businesses. I think people don't think about small business as anything from like a 1 and 2 mom and pop shop up to 500 employees. I mean, the scope is huge. And so we work with small businesses, specifically with the owners, to put plans in place and teach them how to be accountable, how to delegate, how to be leaders, things like that. And it really is, it's not just strategic planning, which I think people like they get scared of that buzzword, but it is really, a lot of people call us like their business therapists, mom, things like that. So.
That's cool.
So we've been in business for we're coming up on 26 years, I think. And I've been in the company for 13 years.
13 years. Very cool. And a lot of people I know, Andy, your mom. And so that's pretty cool too. She's really, really smart. Both of you guys have helped me a lot. So if anybody is looking to either sell their company, restructure their company, or need advice, Robyn is an amazing asset. We are part of the next gen group, which is next generation limo owners, which we're hoping to expand maybe this year. COVID-19 expand to other industries, because we do believe that we can learn a lot from the other industries that are not like us. Yeah. But we also can relate to each other as next gen owners. How does it feel to take over a company or even still work with your family, which is never easy. But let's kind of jump right into it, and let's talk about what you know about the changes for the PPP loan. And if anybody doesn't know, PPP loan is the payroll protection program, I think it's called, right? Am I right on that?
Paycheck protection, yeah.
Sorry. And it provided some money to help us 2.5 times your monthly salary that you paid out for full-time employees. And I've taken it. I received it kind of in the middle of May, started the program, and then what Robyn's going to describe, talk about some of the changes and things that people should be thinking about. So it's all yours, Robyn. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I came prepared today because there's changes, and I want to make sure that I'm giving you guys the right information. So PPP, the SBA just released the changes, I think like last week. And so what they did was they gave an extension. So the original period for PPP was 8 weeks. And so anybody who got their funding before June 5th was stuck in this 8-week period. And so what they did was they extended that to 24 weeks or to December 31st. And so it's 24 weeks from date of funded, but that really only applies to people who've received their funds after June 5th, unless your bank is willing to work with you. And so what happened was, so the original PPP went from, if you want to have it forgiven, it was 75% of that funding had to go to payroll costs, and they reduced that down to 60%, which is good and bad. It's much better for people that aren't back to business. The concern right now is that people already brought their staff back, people who already got funding, and so now what are they going to do? So I'm actually just going to pull my notes over here so I don't miss anything. So there's still a deadline to apply for the PPP, which is right now June 30th. So it's only a couple more days. So if you haven't applied for a PPP, there's funding out there. Talk to your bank or a lender like QuickBooks, something like that. They have funds to disperse. So in order to get, they changed the wording a little bit. So in order to get the entire loan forgiven, you have to spend 60% on payroll costs. And it's okay to spend less than 60%, but whatever amount of the loan you don't spend on payroll costs will not be forgiven. So then it's 60% of that chunk. So what you really need is like an accountant to work with you to kind of figure all this stuff out. Payroll costs are also going to be defined differently based on your business entity. And I think that's crucial here to think about and understand and ask your accountant about, because everybody's thinking the same rules will apply to them, and that's not the case. So you really need to dig into what kind of business do I own and what are the rules there. So like, for example, there's regulation for S corps. That was kind of interesting that I found. Interesting is relative, I guess, but was interesting because and as an S corp, you are an employee. As an owner, you're an employee of your business, but you don't necessarily have other employees, right? You could be an S corp with no employees, but you still have employees. And so how do you kind of manage that? Because your rules for forgiveness and the application and everything, you still have employees even though you don't consider yourself an employee. So there's like a lot of nuances. And then I think something else that people aren't paying attention to is that if you received an EIDL grant that up to 10K, it was like $1,000 per employee, they changed how you get that money. It reduces your final PPP forgiveness amount.
Can you go into that?
I'll do my best. So if you got $10,000 from your EIDL grant, the theory is that you've used that on your payroll already.
Right.
Whether that's true or not, it is what it is. And so your overall chunk of PPP, so let's say you got 50K PPP, now only 40K of that is forgivable because they're automatically deducting that 10K.
Got it. So it's almost better to take that 10,000 and put it back, save it.
Yeah.
Basically, okay.
Yeah. Keep cash. Cash is king.
Cash is king.
And so now what really changed was just the 75% down to the 60% on payroll. What we're seeing now is that, and I know this is going to drone on because it's PPP and it's not exciting, but is the new application for forgiveness from the SBA. They have an easy application that's supposed to take like 10 to 15 minutes to complete. And I have the actual ruling here. So not everybody qualifies for the easy app. So you have to pass one of three things. You have to be self-employed or have no employees. So right then and there, any S corp sole operator does not count, right? That's off the table. Then, or you have to have employees, but you didn't reduce the salaries or wages covered during the period by more than 25%. And you didn't reduce their hours. Or you had employees, did not reduce salaries and wages by more than 25% during the covered period. And due to shelter-in-place laws, you couldn't operate at the same level that you could before February 15th.
Right.
So most people are not, my opinion is that most business owners are not going to qualify for the easy app. But I think I think what the SBA is trying to do is make it seem like it's easier, but really they're just trying to appease people.
Right.
Because people are upset, nervous, whatever they are. Sorry. Let's see. So this seems obvious to me, but you need to apply for forgiveness with the same lender that you got your funds from. The SBA wanted to clarify that specifically. I don't know if people are trying to go to other people to get forgiveness, but it doesn't work that way. And so you need to really be in contact with your bank or whoever loaned you the PPP money, and talk to them about what's going on. So what we're hearing from our local banks is that they're not really sure how to handle the business owners that got their PPPs before June 5th, that now want to convert to a 24-week period versus an 8-week period, because the banks don't have to. It's up to their discretion if they want to extend that. Okay. And then what comes with that because what comes with that 24-week forgiveness period is a 5-year payout instead of a 2-year payout. And so 1% interest on a 2-year payout, the banks can get in and out, get their money, get some money back and be done with it. But on a 5-year payout, banks don't really want to carry a 1% loan for 5 years. That's useful for them. That doesn't make them any money. And so you kind of have to work. This is where having your local bank, community bank, people that's where this is so important, because Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, they don't care. They're not going to care. They want their money, which is fine. That's their job. Their job is to make money on your money.
Correct.
That's how banking works. So also, business owners, you can apply for forgiveness anytime you feel like you're ready for forgiveness. You don't have to wait, but you do have to apply. It's not going to be automatic. You have to ask your bank to do it. So those are kind of the updates. There's other nitty gritty stuff. I'm happy to, if anybody has questions, or I'm happy to make a little write-up about it, but that's kind of like the big stuff.
I mean, obviously a lot of this is new information that we got, about a week ago, and a lot of people are making decisions about, hey, let's put everybody back on unemployment, and then bring them back as the year gets further and further, because, in our industry, we're seeing a little bit of a churn, but not anything to write home about. And so we're afraid that we're going to bring people back and put them back on unemployment. So, I guess I'm going to have to find out, because that's the decision I made.
Yeah.
Because that was the best decision for the company, because there's no point to have everybody, because we had the shelter in place, our drivers couldn't even work.
Yep.
So, who's to say that we're going to get it forgiven or not? I mean, now they're talking about doing a second round of PPP. And so that's going to be an interesting thing too. I didn't read too much about it, but I mean, it's so unclear for, the common business owner then to go and say, okay, well, we'll do it again to get more money. Like, now are we double working? We got $270,000. That means what? They're going to give me another $270,000. Now I'm in a hole for $500,000, and all they have to say is no. And that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, but I think the best decision is to, like you said, sit with your accountant and figure out if it's worth it or not. And, a lot of us come to needing the support. And so we all went in there really fast. And I think there's going to be a lot of us that are going to sit back and watch these banks, take us over, and how much we're going to be able to do about it.
I think what you're also going to see is that, so when you talk to your accountant, here's the advice I'll give you. If you have an accountant that is really focused on your tax strategy of not paying taxes, that's not the accountant you want to be talking to about your debt load, which when you take on loans, now you have a debt load.
Correct.
Because they're going to be thinking about what's the best thing for your tax returns versus what's the best thing for the health of your company in the long run. And if you're in the unfortunate situation where you don't think there's going to be a long run to your company because of this, that's a completely different conversation to have. But if you're optimistic about the continuance of your business, you need an accountant and a consultant and tax people that are on board with you growing your company and building value, and not focus so much on just not paying taxes. And additionally, the value of your company is going to go down when you take these loans. It's plain and simple. If you have $1 million loan on your balance sheet and in your taxes and that you didn't have last year, it's going to make your value drop. Don't get scared, because there's a plan in place, how you pay it back and everything. But it is something to keep in mind if you are trying to buy out a partner or sell shares or buy another business or sell your business, whatever it is. It's just another layer to keep in mind as you are going forward with that. And if you're in the unfortunate situation of trying to sell your business right now and you have these loans, one, read your documentation and make sure that you can't dilute your shares or sell your business while you have these loans out. But two, be prepared to talk to the seller about, what's really going on and why the debt load is like it is.
Yeah, I mean, because there's a lot of talk about how companies move into the realm of, trying to sell their companies, sell their assets, that kind of stuff. And it's really scary. I could tell you for myself, we forecasted, this is going to be a bad 75% loss this year. And for a company like us, that's a lot. And, we have to look at those numbers and say, we're going back to 2016 numbers. So we've been ourselves just trying to sell our larger metals, our two Volvo buses, a couple of our Gretsch buses, because I think it makes the most sense for us to try to sell them, not make profit off them, just let somebody buy us out from them, and then rather than turn them back to the bank. And the problem is that the used bus market is not the greatest, or non-existent. Luckily, we do have some local guys that are interested in buying them, but still, for the majority of people, they don't have that. So what's some advice if you have any, and I know this is kind of a pop question, advice you'd say to somebody who's looking at their books and saying, okay, we're heavy. We need to start minimizing costs. Where do you think the first place, and it doesn't have to be just for the limo business, it could be any kind.
Yep. So there's kind of a two-part to this. You can't cut your way to profitability, but to an extent you can cut. If you cut expenses, it makes being profitable easier, right? And so what you really need to do, and I think this is a Dave Ramsey thing, or it could be Mike McAllowitz, I can't remember, is to really look at your monthly expenses and dig into it and say, okay, how can I cut this by 10%? And if you can cut it by 10%, then next month, look at it again and figure out how you can cut it again by 10%, and just keep working on that. And then really, keep an eye on your balance sheet. It is so crucial that you understand how to read a balance sheet as a business owner. And it's the scariest financial portion to learn to read, but it is the most crucial, because that is really what you're working for. Right. Your P&L, daily expenses, fine, that's important too. I check my bank account on the daily also, but that doesn't mean anything, right? That doesn't mean anything for the long term of your business. And then specifically for the limo guys, get rid of your equipment. If you don't need it, sell it. Before the bank, yes, I hear a lot of people saying the bank can take it, or they won't take it because they don't want metal. That's not true. They will take your stuff because that's their job.
Right.
So sell it before they come take it. And also because if they come take it, how shitty does that make you look, right? As a business, you don't want that. You don't even want to get that reputation within the banks, because whether or not this is out there in public knowledge, they talk to each other. Right. Your data is out there. And once you start showing everybody that you're in trouble, everybody talks. And so the best option is to lean out your operations, and whether that's selling vehicles, equipment, cutting staff, I know that hurts. Not having an office or having a smaller office, whatever it is, whatever you can do to cut expenses, you need to be focused on that and simultaneously focused on, okay, how do we build revenue?
Right. And I think it's really important to everything. And I tell people when they call me, I say it starts from the direct TV that you have in your office to the high-speed internet that you have in your office. And for some companies, the credit card processing, your insurance companies, your loan, you got to look at all the numbers. Obviously, banks are not going to talk to anybody right now, no matter what you do, how well you're working with this. But there's a lot of parts in your business, especially in our business, where, like you said, cash is king. And if I could save 1% on certain fees, like credit card or something like that, it's saving. No matter if you're charging only 10,000 or 15 or 100,000, any savings you can do, that's great. So can you talk a little bit about the EIDL loan? There's still a lot of talk. People are not 100% sure about it. We do know that there's an app, but people are still saying we only got 5,000. So if you could just talk a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Sure. So what I'm hearing is, so yes, there's a cap for the EIDL loan, the EIDL loan, and I believe it's 150K, and they are running out of funds. This is why they're talking about more PPP. My opinion is that they should have just put more money into EIDL, but that's whatever. I'm not in politics, so I can't do anything about that. People are getting less than 150K, obviously. Someone who brings in like 10,000 in revenue doesn't need 150K loan. That doesn't make sense. But people are also getting no EIDL, even though they apply for it, because the bank is looking at your credits, your business credit score and your personal credit score. And they want to know, they're concerned if they can get paid back, or the SBA is concerned if they can get paid back. And what's the point of shoveling money into a company that won't be here in 30 years when it's time to pay it back? So they're hedging their bets and figuring out, how much can we loan and what do they believe people really need? And so if you only got 5K from your EIDL, I mean, sorry, so be it. Figure out how to make that 5K work to the best of your ability, and go from there. You can't hop on Facebook and complain about only getting a certain amount, because the SBA is not watching your Facebook. They're not going to be like, oh, Dave, he only got 5K. Well, let me just send him some more money. Like, it doesn't work that way. And so let's move forward from the poor me of, yeah, it's upsetting. I thought I was going to get 150K and I didn't. Let's move forward to, okay, well, now I have $5,000 I didn't have before, or 10,000 or whatever it is. How do I use it? What's the best way to use it? And cash is still king, regardless of if it's $5,000 or $1 million, right?
Yeah, and I think about we obviously did well and got the support we needed, and we were able to take care of our debts, some of our credit card debts, along with giving loans to some of the employees to help them survive too. It's not just us. Obviously we didn't know at the time that there was going to be so much unemployment available to people, but that's there. So I think it's important for anybody to really look at the decision. Do I take the money if I think I'm going to not be around? If there's some doubt that you're not going to be around, the last thing you want to do is take that money and then not be able to pay it off.
Yes.
Not a few calls, but I've actually kind of been shocked that people are asking me, like, can I use the money for personal stuff? And can I go do this or that? And it's like, why take the risk of messing with the government?
Yep.
It's, the last thing you want to have that, a little bit, on your head while you're trying to resolve stuff.
Yep. And
so hopefully people are being smart about it. I think it's really important that you do talk to your team, but I think you, Robyn, are and your mom too, great resources for smaller companies, even large companies. It doesn't matter what size you are. Get advice on, how to pivot, how to take what's going on. And, we've talked a lot about the different things that I'm trying to do with the Amazon, services, that kind of thing. So hopefully that's going to, it's really important for people who are not so much in your day-to-day to be able to give you advice from outside the box. And that's really, really important.
Yes, I agree.
And so, you know, obviously, you and I have a long relationship so far, friendship, that truly was like a brother-sister relationship. And one of the things that bonded us kind of in the beginning was our love for powerlifting and, you know, that kind of weightlifting rather than, you know, so much the bodybuilding, trying to be lean and mean.
Yeah. No.
So I'm going to get into that, but I kind of want to start I want to get a little bit deeper into your past, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I've already, for everybody who's listening, I've already asked her if she says she's okay with it. So, unknown to me, even though probably if I looked hard enough, I would have figured it out. But I never wanted to. I was bestowed the honor of knowing that Robyn was adopted by Andy and her husband, which is Robyn's mom and dad, since Robyn was a little child, right?
Yep.
How old were you?
I was a newborn when I was adopted.
Do you mind talking a little bit about the story?
Sure. So my birth family is from West Virginia, and they grew up relatively poor. If you know anything about the majority of West Virginia, it's a coal mining state. It's a little bit redneck, and people live there, you know, below minimum wage, things like that. And so my birth mom was 14 when she got pregnant with me, and my birth father was not a great person, and he took advantage of her and some other girls of her age. And so this is something I actually learned when I got much older, like a couple of years ago, was that my birth mom and these other girls wanted to, well, the other girls wanted to form like this pregnancy pact where they would raise their babies together like a freaking Lifetime movie.
Wow.
My birth mom was smart enough or whatever enough to say, absolutely not. And figured out that adoption was probably the best way to go. And I'm not sure how I guess probably through an attorney, how my parents found out about me. And she, at the time in West Virginia, and it could still be the law, you needed the father's consent to put a child up for adoption, even if the age range is like maybe bordering on statutory rape. So she and my birth grandmother kind of flew or drove to Texas and had me there. And my parents came to Texas, and that's kind of how that all got started. Actually, kind of a funny story. My parents decided, without any paperwork, that it would be cool to go to Mexico with a newborn that I didn't have a passport, obviously,
right,
without any documentation of me being their child.
Okay.
As a newborn, just to go like for fun to Mexico. My dad is a lawyer, so I'm just going to let everybody know that he should know the law. And they chose to just do what they want.
That's
yeah, he's going to be like, thanks for calling me out.
Right. But I think it also takes, just that story alone does put a lot of perspective of the type of person you are. And, you know, I think one of the greatest things when finding out about this is that the way you talk about your mom and dad is the way I talk about my parents. And, you know, I don't have a lot of friends who've been adopted. So I don't really know. And maybe they are and they never told me. I don't know. Do you think your history kind of shaped the type of person you are, in the sense not being like your mom, your biological mom? Obviously, you don't know them very well. But do you think being adopted is who you are as an adult?
Maybe. So obviously, like when I was elementary school to high school, I never really thought about it. I've always known I was adopted. It's never been a secret. But I never thought like, oh, one day I'll find my real parents, because the people that raised me to be what I consider like a pretty good human being. And they raised me to be this way, and I owe everything to them. And I never thought about, you know, even when I was like, you're not my mom, like I never really thought about these aren't my parents. And so as an adult, part of me, I think my drive to make a certain income, to live a certain lifestyle, be able to get my nails done pre-COVID, get my nails done and buy clothes that I like. And I'm lucky enough and blessed enough to own a house with my husband and things like that. I think maybe in the back of my mind, it's kind of there, like, I don't want to end up living like my birth family lives. And that's not an offense. It's just, it sort of drives me. But what really drives me is that both my parents own their own businesses. And I just want to do them proud as I run this company, and grow it into, my mom got it really far. She did an amazing job, and she's still in the company, so it's not like she's not here anymore. But what really drives me is, what's the next iteration of Strategy Leaders, and what's the next iteration of me as a personal brand? Because it's just, you know, you always have to be improving. You always have to think about, you know, how can I be better, or how can I help the people around me to be better? And that's kind of what drives me, but that's all from the people that raised me, my parents.
Right. And I mean, obviously, I know your mom, I don't know your dad, but your mom is definitely a fire starter and definitely knows her shit. And when sitting and talking to her, you really do get kind of this bombardment of knowledge. And it does take you back a little bit, especially somebody like me. But it's also, for me, I've realized that it's easier for me to talk to you, just because we relate more, and you understand that. Dumb it down. That's okay. Let's just, and that's okay with me. I appreciate that. It makes me feel good that I can understand what's being talked to, rather than me being like, okay, well, I don't understand, or I don't understand it. So that's one of the traits I definitely think that I love a lot about you. You can talk to me about it, you know, make me understand, so that I can think maybe outside of my normal box, you know. But one of the other, like we talked about at the beginning, is your love for weight lifting.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. We could talk about this all day long. So what was the first thing? How did you get into it?
So probably a lot of people don't know this about me, but I, over the course of, I'm going on like 9 years now, but I had weight loss surgery about 9 years ago, and I lost like 250 pounds over the course of like 3 or 4 years, probably like 2 years really.
Which surgery?
The duodenal switch.
Okay.
So basically what happens, there's a lot of different weight loss surgeries and a lot of fad surgeries. So what happens in the DS is that they change your stomach so it looks like a banana. So right now your stomach looks like a kidney, like a normal stomach. And they change it so you have kind of like a sleeve, a banana. And then they change how I'm not a scientist, so sorry. They change how your intestines connect so that you don't absorb as much nutrients, which is really great for when you are super heavyweight. I was like 405 pounds, and you lose weight rapidly, right? But what happens long term, so it's not all like sunshine and daisies, what happens long term is that you still continue to not absorb nutrients. And so for someone who lifts weights and wants to actually like bulk and grow muscle, it's just like kind of a shit show.
Yes.
Right? It's a mess. And it really takes like I track my food all the time. Like it takes careful dedication. But for people who live a normal non-weightlifting lifestyle, it's probably no big deal. And so as I was losing weight, I was really focused on just pounds lost. I was never focused on lifting weights or getting strong, which every time I think about that, I'm like, you're a freaking idiot. But I wish someone had kind of stepped up and said, hey, you should try to lift some weights and stop just like walking around the block. And so I joined I joined a traditional gym and I have anxiety. So for me, like a giant box gym with strangers is not really my forte.
Right.
And I kind of get in there and I'm like, I don't want to even be here. So I joined okay, there's fireworks going on right now. Full disclosure. It's daytime, but whatever.
Yeah.
So I joined CrossFit. And I know how you feel about CrossFit, and I know right now that the CrossFit community is facing a lot of strife because of Greg Glassman and the Black Lives Matter and everything. So I'm going to just remove that part of that conversation, because when I joined, I didn't know about the issues about CrossFit, right? But what CrossFit taught me was dedication to coming into a gym, being part of a fitness community that keeps you accountable to keep working out and trying things that you would probably not do if you just walked into like Planet Fitness, right? Or like the coach's job is to keep you going even when you feel like death, safely. And so I know there's a lot of issues with bad trainers in CrossFit, because the development of CrossFit was really fast and people were like, well, I could be a CrossFit coach, and they never learned like the safety and technical aspects. And so there's a lot of bad reputation with that. But when you get a good gym with good trainers and a good community, it really does make a difference. And so I started in CrossFit. I realized that I hate running and anything that has to do with cardio. And so after I completed my second Avon 39, which is a 39-mile walk for breast cancer, right. I decided my back is fucked because of herniated disc, and I need to actually build muscle and focus on strength. And so I found a gym around the corner called Punch, and they do strongman. They're no longer in business, but they do strongman and powerlifting training. And the owner there is a strongwoman competitor. She's like Connecticut's strongest woman or something. She's amazing. And so that's sort of where I built the love of powerlifting and the technical aspects of lifting. And I'm going to move my seat and see if that's better, because I can't.
Do what you need to do.
Okay. I have to move my wine.
Yeah, don't forget the wine. That's important.
Oh my gosh, so much better.
So much better. So you were saying that she was the strong woman of Connecticut.
Yeah, and so again, anxiety is like a daily thing in my life. Obviously, I think you understand that. And so I went in kind of like, well, I'm going to be terrible at this, because that's honestly like that's my brain. That's how it works. Like the first thing I do is panic internally, and then I say, okay, get your shit together. Like there's no need to panic here. Right. And so I walked in kind of like, what the fuck am I doing? I shouldn't even be here. Like I can do CrossFit lifts and that's it. And I did like a private session with Steph, and she was like, okay, I want you to pick up this keg and like throw it over the bar. What? Like that's ridiculous. Sounds crazy. But I worked on all this strongman stuff, so anything that involves like odd objects, and I just instantly fell in love with this. And I think what happens is that people see that and they don't think like, oh, strongmen also do powerlifting, because essentially anything that you do with, it's the same movement. So anything that you do with odd objects, you have to replicate in a regular gym. And so that's where your main lifts come into play. The only thing they don't do is like cleans, but strongmen do cleans. It's just not like a technical, that's right. Like a function thing, not a form thing for strongman competitors.
So are you still doing it? Even though, I mean, right now, COVID-19, I mean, you can't really do much, but were you doing it prior to the COVID-19?
So I took a little bit of time off. I tore my hip flexor, not CrossFit injury related, just being my body related. Right. I'm a pretty impatient person, which I'm sure you know. And I was on the way to recovery, and then I decided, well, I'm fine. I can go back to full training. That was not the case. Right. I know. But I'm ready to go back. My gym is actually open. And so I'm ready to go back. I'm just, that anxiety mindset. So I'm ready to go back. Just, I got to get my brain in gear with being ready to go.
Right. And I think that's something I did the gym in here was because I knew I was going to get to a point where I was not going to be comfortable. Our gym just reopened, and I mean, all the limitations and working out with a mask. And just for anybody who's in powerlifting or heavy lifting in general, it's hard enough to breathe, let alone have to put a mask over your face. So we'll wait for that. But you do bring up anxiety, and both of us have. Well, I can speak for myself. I have depression and anxiety. Everybody knows I have PTSD. We need to go dive into that. But you talk about your anxiety. Has it been something that you've had your whole life?
So I want to say yes, but I can't really remember it starting until I was in college.
Okay.
But I was diagnosed. Basically, I have, I didn't know it was ADHD at the time, but when I was younger, I was diagnosed with some sort of learning disability. And my mom will fight to the death for anything she cares about. To the death. Like, don't fight her. She'll kill you.
Right.
And so I was really struggling in school. And what would happen was that I would do all the work and not turn it in.
Oh.
And when I was younger, I didn't have a reason. I just was like, I can't turn it in. And so my mom fought with my school, with my middle school, to get me into special education program, which then allowed me to be in the special education program in high school, which was really the key, because I was struggling in middle school. And once I hit high school, I had a support structure in place for test taking and a place to do my homework and things like that. And so when I went to college, I didn't continue that. It's called an IEP. I didn't continue that IEP because I was an adult and I felt like this is just high school bullshit, right. Which it wasn't. And so I got retested as an adult, and the learning therapist basically was like, hey, you have anxiety, and ADHD. And so the reason that you don't turn things in is because you're worried that it's not right. And I was like, holy shit, you're right. Like, that's exactly the reason. I hate turning in things that I don't feel are ready to be looked at.
Right.
And so I'd rather just make up an excuse to not do it. But it doesn't mean that I don't care or that I don't want to do it. It's just that my anxiety takes over. Like, you're just a failure. Why do you even try?
Right. So it kind of goes hand in hand with the COVID-19. And the reason I bring it up is because obviously a lot of people right now are going through some really bad depression. Their anxiety levels are higher than ever. So they're reacting. And so it's kind of the last part of our conversation is talking about how working out has helped you with, having that anxiety and having, for me, the depression. I obviously already talked about it when I was talking with my coach on my first podcast. How has it helped you? Like, what kind of advice would you give somebody who's right now going through it pretty severely?
So, because I work with a lot of business owners, I feel like it's necessary to mention that business owners and entrepreneurs have a very high rate of depression, anxiety, ADHD. If you don't have ADHD or some sort of learning disability, you're probably not an entrepreneur. That's my opinion. But COVID and what's going on right now, this Black Lives Matter movement and all the economic strife and social strife that is really hurting our country right now, is really hard to deal with. And when you already have anxiety or depression or PTSD on a regular basis, when you add in the emotional complexities of what's happening right now and how you have to respond or help your employees or whatever it is, it's just a lot. It's so heavy. And so I see you. I'm here for you if you guys want to talk about it. But for me, when I am really anxious or depressed, the best thing for me to do is get the fuck out of the house. Like, winter is terrible here because it's freaking cold, and it's colder other places, obviously, like freaking Chicago, but it's cold here, and you don't want to go outside, and it gets dark late. But like, we're in summertime now, and you know, yes, you can't resume your normal activities, most likely like going to the bar or hang out with your friends like you might normally do. But you got to get outside. You have to walk, take your dog for a walk, or just walk around your neighborhood. I talk to my friends all the time about just going out and like with my phone and taking pictures of flowers from my neighbors' houses, like, which is probably creepy, but it gets me out there, and it helps my brain kind of observe things that are not so technical with stuff that I do every day. But when I look at exercise, so obviously I have not been lifting weights, but what I love about lifting weights that helps my depression and anxiety is, one, I can go to the gym, put my headphones on, and yes, I love my community, but I don't have to talk to freaking anyone. Right. I can walk to the back and do my work and leave, and it helps my brain. But also powerlifting and weightlifting in general can be and should be so technical that my brain loves the technical aspect of lifting. So am I the strongest person in my gym? Absolutely not. But is technique something that I strive to perfect? Absolutely. Because for me, it's not just a safety issue, which is crucial when you have, in general, it's crucial, but when you have a herniated disc or a torn hip flexor, but my brain can break down each movement piece by piece, and I don't have to think about anything else.
Right. And I think that's really important, especially for us powerlifters. You have to really dive into concentrating on every movement, everything you do. I mean, from the way your toes are pointing to the way you even grab the bar. I mean, and I think that's what I love about powerlifting. You really do have to get focused, because, you know, it's one thing to go to the gym and do curls with 10 pounds or do bench press with 25 pounds, which is still great workout no matter what you do. Yes. But when you're talking about 250 pounds, 200 pounds, 300 pounds, you know, for me, my best was ever like 370. The concentration and the determination to get that done is something you have to concentrate. You really have to focus and make sure every movement, the way your legs are planted. And then you talk about the squat or the deadlift, two of them probably the hardest movement for any human being, with the likelihood of getting injured if you do it wrong.
Yes.
Because nobody could help you when you're deadlifting.
No.
You pull your back. If you know, on a squat, it's a little bit easier. You have spotters, that kind of thing. Same with the bench. But it is really important, and it does get you to get away from the day-to-day and focus on just what you're doing, which is working out and lifting weights. And I think that is one of the things that I love so much about working out. You talk about going outside. My coach, when I was going through some really rough times about 1.5 years ago, the only thing he told me to do was go walk outside in the sun.
Yep.
Vitamin D, I think it is. If I'm wrong, sorry. Vitamin D is like the greatest thing for your mind. The sun, taking in the sun and really just letting your mind just relax is something that most people don't even do. And
correct.
And it's as simple as just going outside and going for a 10-minute walk. Everybody's stuck. Everybody is, or at least they're starting to move a little bit more. But there's a lot of people still worried about, is this coming back? Are we moving too fast? And rightful thinking. I mean, 100% rightful thinking, but using exercise and talking to people, talk to your friends, get a therapist if you need one. I love that.
Definitely get a therapist. There's no shame in therapy, in mental health support, none of that. It's crucial that you are healthy, sound body, sound mind, right? And so, and you make a point about getting outside and getting its vitamin D. But vitamin B is important too.
I said maybe
okay.
It's my accent.
Your accent. We're basically like freaking houseplants, right? Like we need sun, we need water, real water, not coffee. That's something I have to remind myself of daily. And we need, to take care of ourselves and get some fresh air. And even if you think you don't have time for 10-minute walk, I disagree. You can always find time for 10 minutes out of your life, even 20 minutes. And if you can't figure out how to get 10 minutes, start with 5. Just start. Just go outside and sit on your deck. I can't tell you how many times I come out here and just with my dog and just like watch her in the yard for even 5 minutes during the day, because it's just crucial to get fresh air. And I know from being quarantined in the winter at home that it sucks. I mean, I was really depressed throughout the whole winter, just because you don't go outside and you're not taking care of yourself.
Yep, I agree. It's really important that self-care during these times is really important. Robyn, you know I love you. You're like a sister to me, and I really appreciate everything you've done for me and my company. And I know I can speak for our next gen group and this industry that you've been a big part of it. And I know you have a long future in our industry, even though we can be hard to deal with sometimes. So stay healthy. Get your ass back to the gym so you can get buff again, and be able to kick my ass maybe one day. Maybe we'll see. Anyways, thank you again for your time. Is there anything else you want to say?
The only thing I can think of is don't be afraid to ask for help. If you're a business owner and you feel like I'm a business owner and I should know how to do that, that's just don't trick your mind into believing that. And you can always reach out to me, call me, find me on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. I'm always here to help and talk to people. It's not about money in my wallet. It's about genuinely helping people. And so if you need help and you want to chat through ideas, or you're just struggling with something, call me. I mean, even if it's like a 5-minute check-in, I'm here for you.
Yeah, and I can. It's something about you are as a person, but also your mom and dad. You know, their dedication to a lot of things too. So thanks for your time. I appreciate you watching. I'll put a link in the YouTube, how to find you. I'll also tag you on all the social medias.
Perfect.
And thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.